Coming up on the His Views podcast.
Men don't talk about their feelings. And if somebody loves them enough, you have to recognize that if he's quiet, you need to start asking questions. You need to start creating that safe space for him. The men in my family did not have that. My brother did not have that. And a lot of men, a lot of Asian men, a lot of regular men do not have safe spaces to be themselves, to express what they're going through, because expressing it doesn't mean that you're weak. Expressing it means like, hey, I just want to know that you know that I'm human. And also, is there an answer or solution to this without you beating me in the face and telling me that I'm weak and I'm a loser? Like, if you're going to express yourself to me, it isn't my job to tell you that that's so stupid, man up. It's my job to be like, no, I understand. I believe this is going to work for you. And objectively, not emotionally, this would work.
Miss Knight. Today we have Miss Angela Knight, all the way from Miami, Florida, that came to visit us in this little town of Charlotte, North Carolina. I want to thank her for coming all this way to be on the podcast. I'm very honored. I'm very excited. This is going to be a long one, just letting you guys know. For those that don't know who Angela is, I would like for you to introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Angela Knight. I do various things as of right now. I am a content creator online, as everyone says. It's not OnlyFans.
Yeah, it's not OnlyFans.
It's not OnlyFans. And I do a bunch of little things, but that's what I'm known for, just speaking on relationship topics.
I want to kind of start off with how I found you. So I was scrolling through TikTok, and a gentleman was interviewing you. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to quote it. The gentleman asked you, if you're currently making $100K a year, how much do you want your man to make? And I'll quote your answer. If I'm currently making $100K, I expect my partner to make the same or more. Then you were asked if you would be open to date someone making $55K a year. Your response was, it wouldn't make sense for me to date down. For a man to lead in general, the money helps you lead in a lot of ways. How can you treat me good if you're not making enough money to feel like a man? When I heard this, at first, I was appalled.
I know.
But then when I started thinking about it, and this is just part of the video, it made a lot of sense.
Right.
It made a ton of sense. Could you somewhat explain that for people that felt the way I felt when I first heard it?
A lot of things I say, one, are very inflammatory. One, because I'm very ignorant internally. So I'm still learning how to phrase things to fit the majority of people who listen to what I say.
What, are you too honest, too blunt for people?
I'm too honest because I'm limited in my vocabulary because of how I grew up.
I don't think so.
Well, Google's got me a long way. But to be fair, we know our roots. And my roots, it's struggling there. But I used to answer the question a lot worse. I think I figured out how content creating, how the advertising world works. And I am still blunt, but I say just enough to where there's room for you to kind of ponder, but not enough to where you can say that I'm generalizing.
Right.
Because I used to be huge on generalizing, but then I recognize like the people that watch my content are everywhere. They're either in their early 20s, mid 20s, early 30s, mid 30s, and that's huge difference because who I am now is not the same person I was 5 years ago, even 10 years ago. So these generalizations that I used to make didn't fit what the message I was trying to convey. But nowadays, when I do those street interviews, I know I have 30 seconds to get to the point.
Right.
And a lot of women have said the same thing that I've said, but the way that they delivered the message was terrible. It just, you ostracize yourself by basically delivering that you are a gold digger. But it's not that I was saying that I was a gold digger or if you make anything less than me that you're a nobody. It's just...
that's how it sounded at first.
Right.
But when you start to break down what you said, it made a lot of sense. So then, of course, naturally, I went to the comments to see what the comments was like. I'm like, oh, it's going to be fire.
Yeah.
But it wasn't to my surprise.
Right.
A lot of the people both men and women.
That was my goal.
were relating to exactly what you said.
Right.
And I started to think about that. And I started to think about my own journey and owning my own business for the last 5 years. And I get it. I don't think as a man, I would want to date anybody who is not understanding the hard work and sacrifices that I have to do on a daily basis. And my reward for those sacrifices and that hard work is however X amount of money I'm making. So as a man, I agree. But I kind of wanted you to kind of explain that because I don't think you chose your words incorrectly. You were just straight to the point. You were very blunt, and I believe, especially in this country, we are very sensitive to certain things.
Yes, that's very much true. But in the content creating space that I started in, everything is facts over feelings. That's their main like phrase. But what I've learned from it is like that's what men thrive off of logic, is what they say. Women thrive off of emotions. And what happened was these guys were saying, well, the fact is XYZ. And you could deliver your message and be 100% correct, but you can completely butcher it with how you delivered it. And though people say, well, why do I have to care about your feelings? The facts that you say will affect someone's feelings. The feelings that you talk about have a deep root of facts. It's two sides of the coin that people don't understand.
I agree.
With men and women, we are the same, but we're different. Our priorities are different, how we deliver and how we talk. And I think that my goal was to deliver the message to give men their moment and give women their moment of what we've been all trying to understand. And I think that we often generalize way too much. So coming from somebody who I would have to say is an absolute nobody, there's nothing wrong with working in the service industry and meeting someone who works in the service industry also. People often go on social media and they look at the girls that they think they deserve, and you're working at a 9 to 5 and you're like, well, I deserve the girl who's on a Miami yacht. You don't, because your lifestyles don't align with each other, and you're often going to date a girl who's just going to use you for being the nice guy or being the guy who is just convenient. And that's where it hurts a lot of people. And it's like, I'm not saying you can't do it, but you have to work to get there.
I think it's safe to say that you're very passionate about that you're very passionate about modern dating as a whole.
Yeah.
What got you so passionate about it?
I do recognize there's a huge epidemic of super unhappy people, whether you're aware of it or you're not aware of it. Either way, I recognize everyone's really unhappy, and we think that it's something that we can't solve, and all the answers are in front of you. So I've recognized from working in like the customer service and service industry and all that stuff, you read people, and reading people is something you cannot buy. You cannot read a book. You just have to observe and learn, because it's how you read people. People can tell me all day long that they're a good person, but how you act is different. And I had to learn, like, you can tell me you're good, but I need to make sure that you're walking and talking like you're a good person.
Absolutely. 110% agree.
And I can see that, but I think a lot of people don't. So we end up just creating these absolutes of like, the world sucks. And the world doesn't suck. The world is exactly what you make it to be. Because coming from somebody who comes from poverty, I'd have to say my world sucked when I was young, and I had the most options when I was young of life and choices of what I could have taken, and the most was like scholarships and what is it, FAFSA, all these things that had help, but I had no direction. I didn't know what I was doing. So my world was so shitty when I was young, and I was so unhappy. But as an adult, I've worked for everything. It's harder, but I'm happier. So the world is literally what you make it, and that's something that people don't get to at least reach to come to that conclusion. And I think that I've somewhat hit the beginning phase of my life, where I'm like, wow, I feel really fulfilled, and I see the impact in paying it forward for the things that I've learned on my own.
Why do you think there's so many unhappy people out there? Do you think it was, something the pandemic kind of showcased a little bit more, kind of brought it to light more? Do you think? I
think people don't want to accept this, and this is an unpopular opinion. I think the pandemic, whether made you or break you, and the generation that we live in now, Gen Zs and the younger people, I think that everything that they want has already been created by Gen Xers, millennials, and boomers. So Gen Z, they don't really have a direction. They're really unhappy because it's like, we have everything we want, but we have no idea what we're doing with it. It's like having a nice car and not knowing how to drive. So you're going to fuck it up every time you drive. And we as millennials and Gen Zers, Gen Xers and boomers, we're judging them, but they are the byproduct of the older generation. And instead of shaming them and saying that they suck, I realized like, we need to come up with solutions, because shaming isn't always necessarily a tactic that works for everyone. It works for some people that are like maybe in the military, and even then they leave with the chip on their shoulder. So I like to get to the root of everything. And the generation that my family raised me in works for theirs, but it's not working for my generation. My mom and dad cannot help me for the things that I've been through. They can give me a core value or maybe foundation on what I should live by, but it's up to me to cultivate what I want And as you're learning what works for you, you're probably going to be hurt. You're probably going to hurt other people. And you have to recognize whether it's just a moment in a journey to be where you need to be, or it's going to be your identity of what you've been through. And that's what's happening to a lot of people in this generation, that everything we've been through between our family, that what's done to us, and what we're currently living, it's just so many things hitting at them that they have no idea how to feel and how to process like the evolution of what we're in right now.
Do you find yourself coaching a lot of Gen Z individuals, or is it mostly older?
It's good.
Or is it kind of like a wide variety?
It's very wide for me because it depends on what topic I'm talking about. If we're talking about how to maintain a relationship and elevate it to the next phase in your life, that's where I'm 28, so anyone that's my age or older is where I talk to about that, because they have it. They just don't know how to maintain it. Gen Zers is more so like, how do I even get engagement? How do I even have an interaction with someone? How am I supposed to be interesting if I don't talk to anyone? Because COVID made most people be more creative online. So they have this facade that they're really having fun and they're really cool, but they're not. They're miserable and they have zero social skills in reality. So you have a lot of people that complain about, I can't find a boyfriend or a girlfriend. I want a good relationship. But to me, all relationships are the same. The relationship with yourself, your mother, your father, your boss. And if you haven't excelled in any of those relationships, how do you think you're going to practice a muscle, about an intimate relationship? You've never excelled in any relationship in your life. But that's something that people don't see. That's a huge parallel. So
yeah, taking care of, if you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of somebody else? Yeah, that's super facts.
Right.
Do you think social media has played a role in any of this? And if it has, how do you think it plays a role in it?
I think it has, but it's not detrimental like the way people make it seem to be.
People love to just...
They love blaming it on social media.
Right, which I agree. Social media has its things where, you know, it's not exactly healthy. But I don't think it's the whole...
No. Well, it's the lack of accountability for men and for women. It's not just women, it's not just men. And that's something I've had to learn this year. But the social media has brought a lot of, I don't know how to say, like luxuries and benefits that we would have never had back in the day. So I'd often say, as of recently, that people are enjoying modern day perks and complaining about the consequences of enjoying the modern day perks. We're not recognizing how it's benefit you. Because if we talk about how harmful social media is, we should also talk about how harmful drinking and vaping and drugs and food and your state of mind, all those things are just as harmful. If you do too much of anything with no limitations or boundaries, it's going to be harmful. So social media is just one of those things where we enjoy it, but then we're mad at the fact that the results aren't like someone else's because you're only seeing the surface. You're not seeing the core of how they got there and why they're doing it. We don't know why someone's doing something. So it's just, it's a blame game. It's an endless cycle.
I've talked about that a lot with my own particular journey, where people have claimed that, you know, like Sam, you got it. Sam, you got it made. You're lucky. All this bullshit. But they don't. I think that's the bad part about social media, and where it just kind of shows you all the good parts of your journey,
sure,
but you don't see like all the hard work, the sacrificing, the getting up early in the morning, sometimes going to sleep late, type of thing. You know, giving up parties, giving up friends, giving up family time, giving up relationships.
Yeah. But I think that's where I brought up earlier, and let's softly touch on that topic of like, that's what makes you the 1% of the world, because there's majority of people that would be in your position or my position that look like you're doing something, and it could just be the passage of your journey. And people get lost in the sauce, or they're like, oh my God, I'm getting so much attention from what I look like I'm doing, but that's just what you're supposed to do when you're a content creator. If you start selling the sauce as if it's actually real, now you're a scammer. But if you're doing it to kind of cultivate the audience that you need to grow with you, because when you grow, they grow, and when they grow, you grow. And I view it as like, I have a lot of people who come to me who think that I'm a somebody, and I'm like, dude, I'm literally a nobody. I just talk a lot and I'm Asian. It just works.
But you're very passionate about mental health.
But that's why it works. But I don't sell the mental health. I just sell myself, which is why it works. A lot of people in my position would sell something, and it dilutes their message and the genuine authenticity of who they are and what they're trying to do. And you lose yourself because you had to pander to the audience that you create. And it's like you start losing why you did it in the first place. And that's what happens.
So yeah, so when I was going down the rabbit hole of all of your content,
bless your soul,
I saw how opinionated you were.
Right.
I saw how passionate you were about modern dating.
Mm-hmm.
I saw how, with your debates, you weren't left or right. You were very kind of like
sort of a center. Yeah.
Let's find a middle ground. For you to be in this state of mind, was there anything that influenced you, maybe in your past life, maybe things that you went through, that kind of molded this thought process?
It's 1,000 things, but I'll try to narrow it down to something as simple as like, if anyone knows me from like the beginning of my content creating space, because prior to COVID, I did not have social media. I was not fond of like posting my life, mostly because I had very strict Asian like guardians who were like very judgmental. Mm-hmm. So if you express yourself in any way, they would judge you, be like, oh, like, why are you sexualizing? Why are you looking like you're having fun? That's not important. So I was like, you know what? To prove a point, I'm just not gonna have it. Mm-hmm. COVID came and it was a wake up call for me and my husband. And I was like, dude, I'm effing miserable. Are you miserable? We're both miserable. Time to burn some bridges. Let's start some new ones. So once I created social media, I had a product. I've done a couple of products. Like,
time out. You were miserable and your first decision was to burn bridges?
Yes, because the bridges.
And what aspects?
So my aunt and uncle adopted.
Oh, this is like family.
Yeah, my aunt and uncle adopted me, and they mean really well. But they have their own PTSD and trauma that I at the time didn't understand. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it was projecting onto my life and I could not progress. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to do the thing, it's an Asian thing, be honorable and Absolutely. Do whatever your family makes, to make mm-hmm. them happy. So I did that for a really long time. And it stopped me from growing. And I lost a lot of good relationships because I always wanted to please them. Mm. And a lot of what I've learned now is the reason why they kept me so structured and they disciplined me so much is because they were afraid that if I went too far, they couldn't protect me if I fell. And they didn't get that far in life to save me. And I just took it as like, you're cock blocking. Let me live my life. Let me do the things that I want to do because I'm passionate, Mm. And I mean, it was so many things. I was like, I have this dream. I want to do this. I want to do this. And they would shut me down because at the end of the day, they have a very simple mind. They're still living in what I call like scarcity mindset. And to them, it's like every dollar is a dollar. We don't spend it if we don't have to. And I'm just like, but that dollar can make you $100. Mm. And that's the beginning of everything. And so I had to leave my family. That's the second family because, long story. But anyways, My aunt, I left her and she was really mad at me. And I left everybody behind. And I was like, I need to do my own thing. So I was really selfish is what they would say. So like,
which is the first step to entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So I had to be really selfish, burn that bridge with them, and worked for strangers. And I've never worked for strangers before. I've only worked with family. So they shelter you, even though they're really strict. Working with strangers taught me a lot. And then I, developed things that I didn't develop working with them. So there's that. Beginning of burning bridge 1. Mm. Yeah.
Interesting.
I lost the other question, so you had to ask me.
No. I wanted to know what has happened in your past to kind of mold your mentality that you have now.
Right. Getting back to that. So that whole journey made me focus more so on money because my whole life was more so like if my family wanted me to do it, I would just do it for them. If I worked for $100, I'd let them keep the $100. And my thing was like, are you happy? Are you happy? Because I was trying to pay my dues for leaving home so early because I have a mom and dad that I left home. They were abusive in their own ways. And part of me felt like I needed to leave, but I also felt guilty that I didn't pay my dues as an Asian kid for them bringing me into life. That's just kind of like a rhetoric that they say, like, I gave you life, you need to pay it back. Mm. So for me, as long as I stayed and I worked, I made them money, they were happy. Even if I weren't happy, as long as you were happy, I was fine. I could live in peace, I can pay my bills, that's whatever. So once I left them, I was like, you know what? I left them with nothing. I had no credit. I was filed as a dependent for a really long time because I was scared to do like paperwork. So I didn't have anything. I didn't have money. I didn't have credit. I didn't have squat. So me and him were just like, dude, we need to focus on creating a foundation for ourselves and a nest. So we became money people, like just like boss babe, boss dude type of thing. And after a year of doing that, we found it wasn't very fulfilling. We made a lot of money and we were really like, oh my God, this is the most money we ever made. But then we were unhappy. We were like, okay, now what now? Like when you create that much and they have no one to share it with, it's not fulfilling at all. And that's a thing that most people won't get to because they're still in the deficit mindset of like, oh, like you people who have money don't understand. You can make the money. you can buy whatever you want with the money, but you cannot buy genuine relationships and authenticity with like real family, real friends,
real joy, real happiness.
That's like fulfillment. You cannot buy fulfillment. You can buy a jet ski, you can buy a bottle, you can buy a table, you can buy hose, you can buy all that stuff, but you cannot buy true, genuine love. So I started looking back at all that. So my entire journey became, oh wow, you need simple things. You need to break things down simple. Money, purpose, goals, which is how I fell into that super masculine of like, I never want to go back to the place where I never had credit or money ever again.
Independent.
So, yes. Yeah. Which is crazy because that's my beginning content where everyone sees like you were very passionate, very aggressive, da 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 da. Yeah, because that was where I was in that place in life. And then I just started seeing more of the generalized things that I was saying, like, you need to get your money, you need to worry about that. And everyone's like, dude, not everything's about money. And I was like, what do you mean? Everything is about money. And then it woke me up because I was talking to people who didn't have anything, but were really happy with their wife or their daughter, or something that they've created and they were passionate, like someone that was created in art was like, I'm really passionate about my art, even though I'm not getting paid for it.
Was this like, not to cut you off,
no,
was this also affecting your marriage?
Yeah, it was, because him and I were growing at different wavelengths. He grew very gradual because he's not in the spotlight. He does all the behind. We do different things. Like I would say that we're complementary, and I grow at a very excelling pace. And I think that people don't understand this when people say that women are mature or they mature faster than men. It's not that we mature faster. It's just that when you're a woman and there's certain things that you don't know how to create, you just dream. And when you dream, you don't think about the consequences. When you're a man and it's your job to create the dream, you think about the consequences. So it stops you from excelling at a pace that you want to, because you're worried about, what if I fail? What if she fails? What if we both fail?
Interesting.
So he was very like, every step he took, he knew for sure he couldn't get knocked back. Every step I took, I didn't care if I got knocked back, because I was like, I'm never going to fall back ever again. If I do, I'll get back up. It was the delusion that I thought I could do.
You guys were on different wavelengths.
Way different wavelengths. But it worked because I trust him and I love him. So it was easier for him to be like, what the fuck are you doing? Slow down. And we argued a lot, but people take the arguing as like, that's not healthy. No, the arguing is healthy when you find a solution in the argument. But if you're just arguing and you have ego and you have problems, you're not going to get to the core. Now you have water in your boat, and then resentment. And then that's the beginning problems of people falling out with each other. Yeah.
And how did you guys adjust? So you realized there was a problem. I don't want to say a problem. You realized there was some adjusting that needed to be made.
It was really hard. What really worked out, and people won't believe this, was like, so his father died, so he had to move to Boston. So he basically did long distance for a little bit, and we've been together long enough. And I was like, you know what? Maybe you should go to Boston. I need to work on myself. You need to work on yourself. And at the time, I, as a woman, did not understand, or just a partner, me and him, we have to create a safe space for each other. I never created a safe space for him to be vulnerable, to express his thoughts, his deepest fears, to at least just like create a space for him to at least say like, I'm down bad right now. I can't even explain how I feel, but I don't want you to question me. I just want you to at least understand. And that's why, like, when I speak to you or anyone, I try to understand for how you feel. I'd like to not put words into your mouth, but say the things that you may think, but not know how to say. And usually your reaction, your nods would tell me like, okay, I did it right. So let me continue studying you. So I learned that from him by studying what he was going through, but it took me like almost a year to figure that. So we were like fighting every other month, on and off, but
you guys were separated though, like not separated, but like not physically
long distance.
together.
Yeah, it was like long distance, but there were times where like, I can't. I mean, I don't know how it feels like to lose a dad. Like if your dad dies, I don't have a relationship with my dad, but anyways, I didn't know how to help him with that. I have my own issues. I can't help you through that right now. And you're being really mean. And with women and men, there's a love and respect cycle. So if I want to love you, if I want you to love me, then it's like I have to show you respect. And if I don't show you the respect, you're not going to show me the love. So it's a cycle that I didn't give him and he couldn't give me.
Some of the most successful relationships that I have witnessed in real life, the couples had taken time apart.
Yeah.
To readjust, which I find very fascinating. One of my favorite weddings that I've photographed, for those listening that don't know, I'm a photographer and videographer full time. But one of my favorite weddings that I photographed was a couple that separated for almost a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
And it was one of the most beautiful, intimate, just awesome weddings I have ever done.
Yeah.
And if you see them now, like they're always traveling, they bought a home together. They're like, I just ran into them the other night.
Yeah.
And they just look so happy.
Right.
I have a buddy of mine that I did some work with, and you know, I was telling him about some relationship issues I was currently having at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, you know, me and my wife, we took over a year apart, and now we're inseparable. Sometimes you just gotta air things out, readjust, and you guys are gonna come back together like magnets, is what he said.
I think that's what people mean when they say, like, if it's meant to be, you'll find each other again in the future.
Yes.
But I think it only works if you're both separating for the right reasons and then focusing on the things that you need to focus on, and then find out the grass is not green on the other side. If you don't know why your grass is not green, like water your damn grass. That's why you don't have green grass.
What year did your husband's father pass away? Do you know?
It was COVID. Yeah.
2020?
Mm-hmm.
So, ironically, my father passed away in March 2020.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it's funny because me and him weren't close, but we were close enough to where when it happened, it was like an immediate hit to the gut. I try to describe it like this: like losing a loved one is a very painful process, something that you cannot describe. You have to actually feel it, actually have to go through it to understand it. Mm-hmm. So when you say you didn't know how to help him, you know, that's reality, that's facts, and it's actually a good thing that you recognize that, because I was the person I was with when that happened, they didn't know how to, you know, help me with that situation either. And I actually, you know, sort of resented her because of that. Yeah. But now that I understand, like, I'm sitting here telling people, you don't know how it feels. Mm-hmm. So I need to understand that. Right. They don't know how it feels. Yeah. So I need to comprehend that. I need to be like, all right, I need to take it easy on that little
I agree with
topic. So Miami. I wanted to talk to you about Miami a little bit. What was it like, or what is it like living in Miami? And well, here's what I want to ask, because I was going to move to Miami last year, and as much as I like a lot of things in Miami, I did find that Miami didn't have much sense of community. It was mostly about, you know, making money, and that's making money and hoes. Right. Basically. Right. But I would love to hear a female's point of view, someone who lives in Miami. What is your thoughts on Miami?
It goes back to me saying it is exactly what your world is, exactly what you make it out to be, and what your goals are to being there. If you don't know why you're in Miami, you would fall into the absolute worst crowd, because you would be surrounded by people, but you would feel absolutely soulless, because you're always going to be around people. It's known for the surface of the party, the nightlife, the girls, the hot guys, the yachts, but that's not all of Miami. But it is the loudest part of Miami, and that's where everyone gravitates to. So I moved there. Everyone told me to go to Brickell. I was living in Airbnbs at the time. Jesus. Yeah. So I was like, I'm just going to live in Airbnbs to see what I like, because I don't want to commit to anything. Right. So I was in Brickell for about a month, and I absolutely hated it. It was too loud. It was party city. It was like, but people that don't have lives, they look for that, because it's like, I want to go somewhere that's fun. I want to be where there's a lot of people that are attractive, because that's what they think has quality and depth and core. I don't look for that. I'm looking for a purpose. I'm looking for answers. I'm looking for depth. So for me, being in a space where people have to be clouded by drugs, loud music, loud cars, obnoxious people, surface, I can't deal with surface level people. It really irritates me. But being there, and that was their main goal, was to be seen, not to be heard for the right reasons. I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. So
I ask you because people, they glorify it.
Yeah, they do.
Glorify Miami like it's this, that's where you gotta be.
That's what they think. At. They think.
But it's probably one of the worst places to date. It's one of the hardest places to, you know, live, as far as, you know, financially. Mm-hmm. I had a friend that was renting an apartment there, and he was spending like, you know, $3-4 a month on a studio.
That's how much we were paying.
It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that I took away from it was, you know, I'm a creative, and I need that kind of energy around me to do what I do, and I didn't really find that there.
It's hard, but it does exist. That's the thing. People that are creative, people that have soul and depth, they're quiet. They're introverts. So they focus on themselves and what their passion is. So you're not going to run into people who think like you there, because I stayed there long enough to find people who think like me and work like me.
I feel like a complete outsider there.
You will. And that's just how I think communities work. So believe it or not, there is communities there. There are communities there. There's just, you can't get into them very easily, because the communities that you want to be in don't allow anyone in. And you won't even recognize them. They're like chameleons. Like, they're just like, if they're around assholes, they'll just pretty much like, because they recognize like, this is just the scene that we're in. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, the loudest people that were there, that's what fueled them for that moment and day. And that's what everybody only sees. Mm-hmm. And I now, as somebody who's there, I'd have to say, yes, it is really shitty. But believe it or not, because it's so shitty, if you are a good person, if you have a good purpose, you will stand out like a sore thumb. If you're a hard worker, you stand out. People will hire you because nobody works there. If you're attractive and a good person with good morals, you will stand out because there's a lot of attractive people there with no morals. So even though dating is hard, it's only hard because you haven't found yourself and your purpose to gravitate and find the people that you deserve and you want. Mm-hmm. I think that's why it's really hard, because me being there, my husband being there from time, he hates it there, and I don't blame him. He hates it. I'm a sicko. I could see the madness and be like, this is crazy, but I could see why you're like this, and I'm just gonna let you be, but I'm gonna go ahead and still find my journey within other people. Some people just completely cut off people that they don't find value in. Sometimes it doesn't benefit me, but if you're a good person, I'm not gonna cut you off. There's no reason to. Even though I don't like drinking, smoking, all that stuff, there are people that are nice. That's just their lifestyle. And as long as you're able to compartmentalize like those harmful things and you're able to be respectful to me, mm-hmm. I can be respectful to you, because I don't like echo chambers. I think echo chambers are boring. Yeah.
Speaking of dating, which you talk a lot about, specifically men, what advice would you give to today's society of men when it comes to dating? And let me be very specific. I find that the females dominate the dating scene right now. I feel like with social media and stuff, I feel like females, not every female, but the majority, a lot of them, they use social media as kind of like a buffet, if you will. And a lot of men feel like they're disposable, so to speak. But I had a very interesting conversation with you earlier that we kind of debunked that. Can you give me your opinion on that?
My opinion is, I think you're completely right when it comes to women dominating the dating market, but it's not because they're dominating the dating market in that specific sense. Like right now, women are dominating a lot of things like school, money, working, dating, because they're the one that's most recklessly, actively pursuing it. Men have fallen behind in the West because they lack the direction of where they need to evolve in, because it's like, all right, we don't just beat our chest and go bring home a boar anymore, and it's that simple. As much as people would like to go to that, we're never going back to that. Mm-hmm. We are living in a very modern time. Yes.
Changing modern society that continuously changes and continuously is updating at a fast rate.
Right. And complaining about it is irrelevant, because at the end of the day, I see these guys who complain about it enjoy bars, clubs, social media, liking pics. And I would say like what we see on social media is not the entire world. The women that you see abusing the dating market and abusing the dating apps are not even the type of women that someone like you would even be interested in. Maybe physically she's attractive, but you're going to spend more time dealing with that chaos dating someone like that.
Some men, especially in my age group, would say that the best physical looking women are actually the worst ones.
Well, and that's why that's the problem, because
they receive the most attention. And they have the most
for all the wrong reasons, because they don't understand why they're receiving all that attention from other people. So they're like, oh my God, like everybody wants me. And then they get these guys and they can't keep the relationship because they got it so easy. But that is not all women. I'm very thankful because I work online. So I see exactly what men are talking about, because in real life, men just go to work and go home. They don't know how to socialize with women. and they're too scared to get rejected. So in their mind, the only other way to interact with women is online, because if I get rejected, I'll just block her, or I'll just act like it never happened. So now you're limiting yourself to women that are online who have options. The regular average girl who has a boring vanilla Instagram is not just going to pop up on your feed.
Right.
So you don't see those girls. You only see the really attractive girls, or the girls who has a lot of numbers and check marks, but that's not all the girls. As somebody who was who I guess I would say was a regular person who didn't have social media to where I am right now, I can see the difference where like I still interact with people in real life. I still work in customer service at the stuff that I do. And I could see the women in real life that are like, I just go home, I go to work. Average women do average thing. Men that are average do average thing. We completely miss each other because we're both doing average thing. And then the men are like, well, how do I get to women? I only see the women that's online. So I guess that's all the women. And that's generalizing all the women, which average women don't have the accessibility to do that. She may have 2 guys that really like her and maybe want to sleep with her, and you may have just 1 or 0. It's still 1 more than you because she has a vagina and you don't. But she does not have 10 guys on her. It's impossible because, for example, Miami, everyone's attractive. So now it just got saturated. Now it's not just attraction. You have to be this specific attraction. You have to be this specific look, or else you're not. Like, I'm considered fat in Miami. So yeah, so this is a lot crazy. About the type of like how pickier it gets. So if I'm considered fat in Miami, the options that I don't have versus the girl who's on a yacht naked and doing coke, and she has tons of options, but for all the wrong reasons. They all want to sleep with her. Nobody wants to marry her. So my only advice for men is like, if you focus on who you are, and it sounds so cliche and Tony Robbins like, it's truly you. If you don't have, let's say, height, then you have to have drive, purpose, humor. Something's got to give. You see, if you look on the lens of an average life, you see regular people together. Fat people are together, unhappy people together, ugly people are together, black and white people, everyone are together. Social media has a standard where like, if you're not tall enough, she doesn't want you. If you're not rich enough, she doesn't want you. That's not true. Poor people have more kids than rich people do.
So I guess it would be safe to say to put the phone down and start living life.
Go touch grass. That's my favorite thing. Go touch grass. Go touch grass. Develop who you are. Most people don't know what they want to do. They don't even, like, you get out of school and let's say you're not that book smart and you don't have a passion. What are you doing? Just working 9 to 5. It's a cycle. It's miserable. Then you play video games and then you're like, oh, I would be stimulated. Short dopamine. Scroll. Get off the phone. Develop a personality that will attract people. You'd have to be an admiring person. So.
What do you personally do for your own mental health? And do you have any maybe past traumas that try to resurface? And if they do, how do you deal with that?
Where's the tissue out? I'm CEO of past trauma. Okay, it's what I do for fun. It's my hobby. That's let's see what I do to, I guess, cope or at least go through my days. One, I try to compartmentalize everything. I don't squish it onto one, because the old me and a lot of people, they just feel like, oh, like if you hate me, the whole world hates me. That's how the whole world views me. But now if I deal with someone who doesn't like me, I compartmentalize it like, okay, why don't you like me and how can I change that? I don't think that's everyone. So I personally think I deal with things by paying it forward. Like whenever I'm able to change someone's perspective, change someone's state of mind, life, like I invest into a lot of people that I could see the potential where they could be. And most people say, why are you putting time into this person?
Because you get satisfaction out of helping people.
Yes.
That is what fulfills you.
Yes. Agreed. So I get satisfaction from, I guess, somewhat building a bridge for this person that needs to go to the next phase in their life. And to be fair and to be honest and to be blunt, I don't give dating advice. I just give like any type of advice that I've been through as an experience, in my experience, whether it's communication or perspective, because, you know, everyone says don't ask.
But you definitely could.
I could. But dating advice, someone would come to me for dating advice, right? Then you find out the problem that you have with the dating world is not because you suck at dating, you're just sucking at life. So labeling yourself as a dating coach or a dating person keeps you in this bubble, in this niche where someone says, how do I attract a girl, Ange? And I'm like, okay, let's look. You're out of shape, 1. You're not driven, 2. You're not confident. I don't think focusing on a girl is the main priority right now.
Drive and exercise will help confidence.
And I'm not saying you have to be like a ripped dude, you just
healthy.
It's showing that you have the motivation to focus on something other than a girl. Like if you're solely focusing on a girl, you're not going to get the girl you want. And I think that people don't recognize it enough. So I think when people say don't ask you for dating advice, I never said I was giving you dating advice. But right now, you need a cup of water, and I have the cup of water. You should take it.
So helping people, that's one of your passions. What else? What else does Angela do?
Angela's very boring. Angela, damn, that's a good question. I guess because I'm still learning myself, because I would say like I'm never done learning. Learning new things fulfills me. Making people around me happy fulfills me, because when I make people happy, it isn't just a one-way street. It's always reciprocated. So I get fulfillment from seeing like my husband, my family, my friends, my new community, like they're all reciprocating, and they send me messages. And I'm sure everyone can say this who's in the content creating space. People send me messages all the time, but it does something for me. I'm still discovering what makes me happy beyond that. But for the most part, I think that's the main thing. And I like challenging myself.
I think it's good that you've tapped into something, because a lot of people, they reach their 40s and 50s and they still don't know what those it factors are. They don't know what passions they have. They don't know what fulfills them. They you know.
Can you blame them though?
No. It's
hard, because think about the living conditions that people have now. Like if your family didn't set you up with anything, whether it's your state of mind or foundation, you spend majority of your time in survival mode.
Yep.
How are you going to have time to create a passion? Because a passion usually does not pay in the beginning.
Yep.
So it's like, I don't got time for that. I need to pay the bills.
I was 20 years old, and my mother kicked me out. But she didn't kick me out for the typical reason. Hey, you're a man now. Go do your thing. She kicked me out for, religious beliefs. So she said, either you can stay in the house if you continue going to church meetings, whatever they called it, or you can decide not to stay in the religion and go figure it out on your own. I was a 20-year-old kid going to school full time, and I told her, I'll just go find somewhere else to go. I don't want to be a part of that religion. And for 2 weeks, I slept in my car at a Bally's Total Fitness parking lot until I finally found a friend that took me in.
Aww.
And that was the beginning of hell for me, all of my 20s. And it wasn't until I was like 32 that I found what my passion was. But I think about the people that are in those similar situations that don't find their passion,
right?
That don't find any purpose, that don't find anything to relieve themselves with. Do you ever get to talk to individuals with that kind of, I guess you can call it trauma? Because I could go really deep into it as to why and how it caused so much trauma for me. But do you talk to any people that have similar events that you?
Yeah, it's.
Do you have any?
Do I have any? Let's really bust up and mess the Rolodex really quick.
Well, I just ask because you seem so put together. You seem so strong-minded. You seem just very
right.
But usually, I have found people that are really hard in life, that they're hardened, that there are things that have hardened them.
Oh yeah. If you met me like 2 years ago and back, you'd been like, yeah, this chick's broken. She's broken.
Interesting.
Oh yeah. But when you're in the public space like this, you don't have many room to make mistakes. You get nuked very easily nowadays online. So I had to quickly said, we got to pull a reverse Uno card on folks. So I decided to clean up my image as much as possible to where you don't expect anything from me. So when you insult me, I got the receipts. I got the receipts of my background. So when someone says, oh, you're a goody two shoes, you wouldn't know. I'm like, well, there is a mugshot floating on Instagram right now, and it's my face.
You have a mugshot?
Yeah, it's not that great. It's not attractive either, but there's that.
What did you do, steal candy?
Actually, it's funny. I was living out of my car, so I was stealing, and I got caught. It was like...
You were stealing?
Yeah, was I stealing?
You were living in your car?
Yeah.
Hang on a second. So, wait, backtrack. Why were you living in your car?
So my aunt and uncle took me in after I left home, and they already had a kid that was 7 years younger than me. So they were used to dealing with a 7-year-old. I was 14. They had no idea how to walk through that life with me, and I already had some PTSD from my mom and dad. So we would bump heads all the time, and they put me in school to this white ass school. I came from the projects, so we go from the projects to the school where everyone's wearing Hollister and has silky horse hair, and I had like this chonga look, and I was like, what is this? I looked like I was from like Guadalajara or something. I did not fit there, but I was there, and I just had a really hard time focusing on school, because once you leave home, I spent like some time couch surfing with people. After some time had passed, my aunt was like, when you're done living that hood rat life, you can come live with me, but you have to cut off all ties with everyone.
How old were you?
I was 14, and they took me in at like 15, but she was communicating with me in between. So I spent a good year just kind of out there. And I was dating someone at the time that helped me pack my bags to leave my house, because I had nobody, and I was like heavily in like the skater community. Skater people are very tight. They're very loyal to each other. They're all broken kids who just kick, push, and shove. That's their thing. And I recognize that, like, I feel broken. I'm part of this, whatever. So anyways, I did that, but I recognized that the money that I took when I left home, it didn't last too long. $2,000 is not enough to live for a year.
Right.
So my aunt was like, I'll offer you this if you move in with us. We'll take care of you, but you have to cut off your boyfriend. You have to cut off all your friends, no social media. Just go to school. And I was like, you know what? One of the reasons why I left home was because I want to continue going to school. I'm going to do this. Moved in with them. And it was not, they were, what is it? She was 26 at the time, which I didn't even realize. I'm 28. I can imagine taking care of a 14, 15-year-old. I've been spazzing out. And we bumped heads every day. I was going to school and everybody was doing tailgate stuff, after school programs. I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. Because I really wanted to indulge in school. But she was like, no, you're going to go to work right after school. Because her fear was like, you're going to fall into the wrong crowd. But she never expressed that. So to me, it's like, why are you forcing me to go to work after that's the reason why I left? Because my parents were heavily into child labor. So I was like, I don't want to work after going to school. My white friends don't have to do that. Why do I have to do this? And I never asked these questions. I just thought it in my head. So I came to the conclusion that I'm just going to be a menace. You don't want to give me what I want? I'm going to just be rebel on everything. So we bumped heads a lot. And it came to the point where she's like, you're skipping school. You're not coming to work. You got to move out. And I was like, okay, fine. And I'm so used to being a disappointment that I didn't care. So I moved out, crashed with other people. So I had to pay to live with people off of this bullshit paycheck. And she's like, I'll give you a job forever, but I would never let you live with me. So I had to move out. That's so it's awkward. Like a half kick out, half.
That's awkward.
Yeah. You know, so I did that, and I obviously couldn't afford it. She kept me on a tight budget for a reason, but I didn't know. All the money that I made, I didn't realize she was putting in an envelope until later on in life, and I was an asshole for that.
Wow.
Yeah. But again, Asian people, and maybe a lot of culture, but I'll speak on Asian people because I'm Asian. They feel a lot. They mean well. The delivery just sucks. So you have all these kids with PTSD and chipping shoulders walking around. And that's what happened. I was living with people, and I was just living off of the scarcity mindset. And I was like, I need toothpaste. I need this and that. What I do? You steal.
Yeah.
I'm like, who cares? But the problem was I was the only Asian person in the group. That's why I stood out like a sore thumb. And that's why I got caught.
You're a criminal.
I'm a criminal. I'm a big, hard criminal.
There are so many people in those similar situations that do 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Things like that don't determine or define who you are. The person that you are achieving to be is who you are. Are you telling me that there's a mugshot out there? I didn't believe it. I thought you were joking.
Yeah, no.
Because I got to interact with you before the podcast, and I have a very good sense of people.
Check your wallet and see if it's still there.
God damn it. And you just didn't strike me in that, so I thought that was a joke. But that's so backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
How long were you on your own like that, in cars and couch surfing?
So I was fortunate because fortunate enough, I guess, when you're in that mindset, you're a girl, so you don't seem very harmful to a lot of people, even though my mind was not the best. But I had to be really nice to a lot of people, build friendships, and I would often, people let me stay with them. I had people that were like, hey, you just got to make this amount, and often if I couldn't pay, I'd get kicked out where I was at. So my aunt was paying me, I think the most I ever got paid for her was probably $700, and I would work 7 days a week.
Where is this? Where was this?
Nail salon. I'm Asian.
Like, but where? Like what state?
In Tampa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I've always been from, so she went from paying $200 a week to $700. That's the most I ever got paid from her, which is barbaric. fucking painful. $700 a week. That's $100 a day. I was working from like 9 to 8, scrubbing feet, getting just brutally attacked by people. But anyways, it became normal for me to live in that mindset where I'm like, well, it's just me against the world. I'm just going to work to just pay rent and pay whatever it is to get by. I had my little shitty hoopty, and whenever I would get kicked out of somewhere, or I burnt a bridge with somebody because I had my own selfish ways, I'd get kicked out. I'm just like, I'll just stay in the car until I figure it out. But yeah, that happened for a little while up until after I got arrested, which is, I don't remember if my arrest age was 17 or 19. All I know was like I wasn't old enough to bail myself out. That's all I remember. So
how long were you in jail?
Not bad. It was only like a night. It was one night, and the sickle part was I got arrested at like 7 or 8 p.m. is what I remember. Spent the night in jail. Woke up the next morning. I spent the bunk with some crackhead, and then the next morning I still had to go to work. And I was like, if I don't get to work by 10 a.m., she's gonna know that I went to jail or something happened to me. So I got out. Somebody bailed me out finally, and I like got home, changed, showered, and went right to work like nothing happened. And that was my wake up call, because you had to pay a lot after that. After you get out of jail, it isn't just that. You got to pay for, probation and all this stuff. I was on probation for stealing. What stupid shit is that?
What did you steal?
Just house essentials, like things that I couldn't afford, things that people hate buying. Like, who wants to buy shampoo and toothpaste? I hate buying that stuff.
I feel like depression has been a huge topic, especially since the pandemic, right? Do you feel like there's a difference between the way men deal with depression, as far like between the difference between men and women, how they each deal with depression?
Oh yeah.
And do you have any examples?
I have plenty. Depression with men, huge. Men are internalizers with the way that socially, the way that y'all are conditioned, the way that society has created us, and the way that our families, and it's just never been a thing for men to be expressive of what they're going through, because it's used to be weaponized against you. But I think that being emotional with the right person is necessary, because the other person wants to know that you're a human. But with the wrong person, we have the bad experience. But with men, and even my own personal experience, my older brother committed suicide. I don't know if I can say that on here, but you can cut it out.
You can. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, it happened so long ago. And, I'm trying to bring light, so I'm not trying to be insensitive here, but we were so broken from a broken family that I think that him ending his life was probably better than him being here today with what he had to go through. And
wow.
So with the way that we grew up, I wouldn't be able to help him, and I would have been helpless, and it would probably hurt me every day to see him probably stick a needle in his arm or something. He was 17 at the time, and
is that how he passed away from?
He hung himself.
I'm sorry.
And we lived in a trailer. Do you know how low the ceilings are?
Oh my God.
If I sound like I'm trying to make it comical, it's because it's really depressing. And if not, I'm going to start crying. And I can be crying right now.
It's almost like you're a comedian, because a comedian would have said something like that, for sure.
I used to be really sadistically like comical, but it started.
I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts, and the average person cannot get through one of those, because they
get mad.
They get very dark.
Yeah, but it's my brother. So like anyone gets mad, like, okay, it's my brother. Fuck off.
How close were you to him?
Oh, we had such a love-hate relationship. I think he had like ADHD and like mental health issues, but we were Asian. We don't go to the doctor. So now that I'm older, I'm like, he was very hyper. I'm like, did someone not recognize this? And we were very close because my parents put a lot of responsibility on us to run the household, because they opened a nail salon right in the hood, and it was my job and his job to run it. He would drive us to work, and I would have to work, and he would just be there, just heads down, just working. So he internalized everything. I was expressing my hate and my anger through how I treated customers, how I treated my family, and he was just distanced and closed off. So I recognized from that experience that he was the first person I recognized. Like, every time you felt something, you never knew why he was so angry. And with me, you just thought I was just like looking for attention. I was trying to be a crybaby or whatever. So going back to the question that you had asked, how do men handle depression, how women handle depression, men don't talk about their feelings. And if somebody loves them enough, you have to recognize that if he's quiet, you need to start asking questions. You need to start creating that safe space for him. The men in my family did not have that. My brother did not have that. And a lot of men, a lot of Asian men, a lot of regular men do not have safe spaces to be themselves, to express what they're going through, because expressing it doesn't mean that you're weak. Expressing it means like, hey, I just want to know, that you know that I'm human? And also, is there an answer or solution to this without you beating me in the face and telling me that I'm weak and I'm a loser? Like, if you're going to express yourself to me, it isn't my job to tell you that that's so stupid, man up. It's my job to be like, no, I understand. I believe this is going to work for you. And objectively, not emotionally, this would work. If someone spoke to you in that way, you'd be like, oh wow, I don't mind expressing what I'm going through because you have the answers. But oftentimes, because men are the leaders and the providers, they don't believe that anyone around them, and I don't blame them, that can help them. Because if somebody's following you, how can they help you? But essentially, if you pick the right woman, if you break the generational curse that you're in, then you have to cultivate the type of home you want, which is create a space for your wife or your girlfriend to express to you. Then she would create the space for you to express when you're down bad, because you don't have a problem working hard. You have a problem working hard and no one appreciating it. You have a problem with feeling like you're the only person in the world that feels this way. And it's kind of pointless when your wife is just looking at you with this crazy look like, you don't do anything around here besides go to work and stomp your feet. Like, no, I do a lot of things. It's just different than what you do because we are complementary. So we often bypass the things that we do that contribute in the home, and that's why men and women fall apart. So
there's depression, and then there's cultural depression.
Cultural depression.
Meaning that there's cultural things that happen in our lives that cause that depression that other people would never understand unless they were in that culture. And I think a lot of just making an assessment here, I think a lot of the things that you're passionate about right now are things that, were things that you had went through in your teenage years and your childhood years. So backtracking to family, are you close to your family now? Because you mentioned that you had to separate yourself from them for a little bit.
Yes. So I have many families, which is the reason why it's so confusing for people. I have my mom and dad that I still do not talk to, but I'm not mad at them.
Your biological mom?
Yes.
Why do you not talk to your mom and dad?
I think it hurts them more than it hurts me to talk to them. I'm able to put everything behind everything and everyone, but with the place that I am in life, when I talk to them, all they see is a dollar sign. And it's hard for them to recognize, like, it's not that I can't give you money, it's not that I don't want to give you money, but that's not why I'm here. And for them, I view them as like homeless people. When you see homeless people, you see them and you feel bad for them, but they're content and they're happy with the way they live. They look miserable because you would never live that way. So I look at my parents like, I don't like the way you guys live, I don't like the way that you guys are, I don't like what you did to us, but I'm not going to interrupt this chaos that y'all live in because it's normal for you to live in that chaos. And as much as everyone said, well, what if they die one day? I'm like, they were happy without me being there. I'm not going to be there and hurt myself when I'm not even finished forming into whatever the hell I'm supposed to be. So I can't talk to them.
That's a reality that a lot of people have a hard time understanding, is that just because you're blood related doesn't mean that they're actual family.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah,
I agree with that. I've never really cared about blood. Like anything, like after I left home, I don't care about blood because I have so many great relationships with strangers. Like I have this one, I call her my aunt and my other uncle because I have two sets of uncle, the one that are blood and the one that I adopted as my own, or they adopted me. And I go to them for guidance. They're older and they're very like calm and nurturing, and I like them. I have another aunt uncle who are in their mid or late 30s and early 40s, and they themselves are still trying to figure them out. So I have a very love-hate relationship with them where I love them, but they are also the byproduct of my mom and dad also. So they are just the trickled of the fucked up depression stuff had lingered on. And I don't have enough credibility to instill any power or any guidance in that because I'm younger and I'm not as successful or any type of way. So to them, it's like, so I don't really talk to them as much. But when I do, it's like holidays and stuff and like random texts like, love you, miss you, just letting you know I don't hate you. I'm just weird. And that's it.
Are you one of those people that you're probably closer to like your friends and your actual family?
The truth is I'm actually not close to anybody. I'm not close to, the only person I'm really close to is my husband. That's really the only person because him and I have gotten this far through our separation, I guess. Like when we were like distance and we didn't talk. It was almost like we broke up, to be really honest. And we got back together and we're like really close now.
Made it stronger.
Really strong. Like we're fine. We're amazing. But with my friends and my family, I can't relate to them because when I'm around them too much, I recognize that they're pulling a lot from me and they're not giving enough back. And I think life is all about reciprocating. And eventually I just feel like I'm going to resent them and hate them around too much. So I'm not close to my friends as much as I want to be. I can't help but to interject all the time, be like, hey, that's hurting you, don't do that. So I'm like, yeah, I'll just see you guys when I can. Like if I visit and stuff, I give them my full energy, and then after that I need to go home and recharge my battery with the person that I love. And that's kind of how I am, and people seem to like me better that way, because if I'm around all the time I become annoying. So.
If there was something that you could tell your current audience right now, something that you want them to know about you or whatever it is that you are promoting, what would that be?
I would tell my current audience that everything you're going through in life is very normal. There's always answers, and even though you don't see the answers, it's because it's not the answer that you want, but it is an answer, and sometimes you have to take that and grow from it and learn to forgive, not for the other person, for yourself, and learn people. You have to learn people. And people don't learn the psyche of people enough. We just think that life should just be good, but we don't live in that type of world where it should be, it could be, it would be. No, live in the world that we live in. People are shady, people suck sometimes, but there's always a reason why they suck. So if we only focus on what they did, the aftermath, we don't focus on the why they did it, you're going to hate everybody and you're going to become bitter, and don't do that to yourself.
Earlier we were talking about quote unquote boss bitch mentality.
Yes.
What I'm asking is, I guess, being an independent woman is like such a thing now. Like,
yeah.
It's like a promoted thing. Like it's almost like glorified. Yes.
Right.
Do you see that having any negative effects?
I think that, yes, of course. I think everything that is completely glorified is always going to have a negative effect.
I mean, I totally promote you doing your own thing. I promote people being independent. I promote, just starting your own journey. Right. Just like I love that. I thrive off of that.
Of course.
But do you think it could get a little toxic?
Well, I think let me put it in a different perspective. Maybe that would help like any audience, men or women. I think that if a man is too masculine, let's say too masculine, that means he's not in tune with how women feel, how his mother feels or her daughter feels. That's an issue, because you're working, you're masculine, you're doing everything that you're supposed to do by the books, but you're forgetting to connect to the one thing that keeps you touched with society, which is your emotions. So when a woman adapts that, it's not that she's a boss bitch that's a problem. You're a boss, but you're forgetting to still be nurturing. You're still forgetting to be, submissive, or whatever it is that people's preferences are. I think that we're lacking the duality of like, you can be independent all you want. Just like me, I think that I have a very independent life. But when it comes to the people I love, I treat them as if I'm helpless. And they know that, damn, if I were to walk out of your life, Ange, I know that you can take care of yourself, and that's all that matters. Being with somebody that is dependent on you and they cannot help themselves is not a flex. Being with somebody that wants to be with you is a flex, because I could choose anybody, but I chose you, and I'm able to take care of myself. But I want you to know that I need you to take care of me, because I want to be with you. I need to be in your life. Not because I need to depend on you financially, because I've built this love with you, this relationship with you, and it's irreplaceable. And that's what the flex is. I think people should focus on that. And being a boss bitch, you hyper focus too much on money, because you don't understand the psyche of men. You think that all men suck, all men are trash. And it's like, no, that's not the case. That's what social media is glorifying.
I was going to say, social media has done a great job of making men think that, and then vice versa.
Right. But if we reverse the roles, it'd be the same thing. If I see a guy who's too into his career, it is attractive that you're driven and you're goal career driven. That's amazing.
Degree.
But then like when I have a conversation with you and I look at your personal life and you live with this bachelor life and it's soulless, I'm not impressed with that.
Right.
It's like, that's cool. You can probably get me in the door, but can you keep me in the door? Boss babe, someone's smashing her, but no one's keeping her. So it's not the matter of being a boss babe that's unattractive. It's that's your leading personality. You can be a shark all you want, but please be a pettable shark. Can someone pet you?
How do you think OnlyFans has played a role into that? How do you think OnlyFans has affected dating, has affected...
I think people make it seem like it has affected terribly. I think it is affecting some, but not to the degree that people think it is. It's just what you're seeing the most, because it's the most chaotic drama. People that are sex workers or people who work in that industry, they date people that are in the industry. They're not going to date some guy who doesn't relate to that lifestyle. If some guy's in like the nightlife industry, it kind of goes hand in hand, because you're selling yourself for something. It's really normal to be in that chaotic scene. If you're a regular schmegular Joe and you're trying to J her, you're going to have a hard time, because it's not just because she's an OnlyFans girl. It's because her lifestyle doesn't match with yours. And I think that my problem with OnlyFans, my only biggest problem is hustle culture. money overrides everything. It becomes your identity. And it's like, if you want to make money just to like pay off your mom's mortgage or to like buy something and get in and get out, no judge. But if that becomes your whole entire identity and you're like, I'm empowered, I'm liberated, you're not liberated, because you're making all this money and people are only paying you to see your hoo-ha naked. You know, that's all it is. It's nothing more behind that. And I think people don't want to accept that. But if you know that's why people are paying you, I won't judge you for it. But I would judge you when you think that I'm the shit. No, you're not the shit. You know, you're getting treated like shit. That's exactly what's going to happen if you, like the ex-porn stars like Mia Khalifa and all of them, they get out and they try to date normal and they're miserable.
But they're never looked as normal in society.
They're never. You have to date within, I think I've always said people date within their socio-economic class. And just because you're the guy that's not with the girl you want, it does not mean everyone's that. The girl you want is probably sleeping with the guy that's in your job, that's probably funnier or more driven, or is probably has more game or riz or whatever people call it nowadays. And it's just, what do you have? What are you offering? Nobody has anything to offer anymore besides like complaints online in the comment section. That's the biggest problem. We're complaining too much.
Right. I noticed that, I didn't get to watch it, but I noticed that you were on the infamous Fresh and Fit podcast in Miami. I don't know when it was or anything like that, but what was your experience like on it?
I hate that phase of my life. That was when I was, I call that stage of my life and that experience, the beginning of me learning how people are online and how people are in real life. As a consumer, it's very entertaining to watch these people. But as a content creator, I hate people like that because I think that they pander to a bunch of incels. There is a better solution than telling men that they only need to focus on money and bitches and stuff like that. It's just very materialistic. But because I come from a background where you don't have nothing, that's what you focus on as a starter kit. So I always tell people like the problems that they attack are necessary, but it's not the best solutions. They have the terrible solutions to their problems. Like, you know, somebody said, get a vasectomy in your early 20s to be a high value man. First off, what is a high value man? I hate that phrase. I think it's so gay. Like, why are we saying a high value man? So you're saying because he has a lot of money, he's high value? What about the Epstein guy? He has a lot of money. He's a fucking dork. And I'm like, and then you look at somebody who maybe works at Chipotle, who's just trying to like pay off his like tuition, his good integrity, good goals. He's a good person. He needs someone to build a bridge for him. Are you going to say he doesn't have good values, that he's not high value? His goals aren't, his values aren't? Like, why are we segregating what men are? Like, you're supposed to be helping them build a bridge. If you're in your 40s and 50s, you should not be comparing yourself to someone that's in their 20s and 30s. They're not the same.
Do they generalize all women, or is it just a specific?
They say they don't, but they do. They always say that. And they say we fly women from all over the states and da 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 da. There's hoes everywhere, bro. You're only flying out hoes. Only hoes would find this podcast because 80% of the girls on that show has an OnlyFans.
Well, that's what I thought. They were just educating men on, you know, strippers and.
But they are, and they don't think they are.
Workers.
They say everyone is glorified that way. They say all women are sexualizing themselves. There's a bunch of regular girls that would never even get an invite on that show because they're not visible on the map. They're not accessible to these guys because these guys recruit women online through Instagram. So you have to have a popular profile to even get recruited online.
I've never watched a full podcast, just like the shorts that I see on social media. Some of the stuff he says is like spot on. But I've never been able to have like a full opinion on it because I've never seen like a whole podcast. But to me, from the outside looking in, it looks like that they just are tailoring to the men that are getting used and abused by these females that they own social media presence, that have OnlyFans, that are strippers.
It's not realistic. Like, remember, the guys that are these shows, they consider themselves to be the 1%ers of the world financially, and they're trying to say everyone deserves to be a 1%er, but they're not preaching what it takes to be 1%er. You're preaching what it takes to just be one step of whatever you are.
So what's the difference between their 1% different definition? What's the difference between their definition of a 1%er and yours? Theirs
is solely based on materialistic shit, and I've always
money. How much money you make?
It's money. It's like, like they only care about what they can buy. That's like, you can't buy good relationships. I'm sorry, buddy. Like you can't buy respect. You can't buy these things, and men thrive off of respect. You can have all the money you want, but I see you for the dork that you are. And just because you were bullied in school and you got out and you hit the gym a little bit and learned some real estate does not make you a high value man. You speak of hurt, you generalize and say, if you're a single mother, you ain't shit. Don't you have a baby, so you're knocking baby mamas because you got hurt by one? How's that fair?
I didn't realize you said that. I was raised by a single mother. And
a lot of people are.
Yeah. And she was a wonderful woman. You know? And to go back to what you said, that you can't buy respect, I feel like they would probably object to that because they probably buy respect all the time.
They buy attention. They buy companies. Like the guys, they're on like, what is that thing called? They're on like the sugar daddy sites. So it's like they're buying these girls time to be there. So again, I don't think that they're completely wrong. I think that they attack problems in a section of the world in the phase you're in, which is the most rejection phase in your life. And they attack it and they mask it for everyone, 30s, 40s, and 50s, and all men who work in the service industry, men who are high value men, and men who, you know, whatever. And I'm like, that's just not the case.
So what's your definition of a 1%er?
That's a tough one because it doesn't exist too much. I would just say somebody, I wish I can just break it down in simple terms, but I guess it's somebody who has what it takes to annihilate the world, but chooses not to. I guess that would be the simplest form, because these guys have what it takes and they're choosing to nuke the world, and they're choosing to control it by what? To make a lot of money from it. And what are they doing with the money? Are you charged like a charity, a foundation? What are you doing? Nothing. They're buying Bugattis, living in penthouses, popping bottles with the same women that they hate. We hate hoes, but we party with them. We also sleep with them, but there's no good women either. But it's not our fault because we slept with them all. Like, you know, and this was all they generalize. All women are hoes is what they would say. For example, if all women are hoes, and high value men only sleep with hot hoes, then where are all the hoes sleeping with? If the average guy is not getting any women, 1 in 3 men are virgins or haven't had sex in the 1-3 years. So if they're not having sex with the hoes, who are? If the high value men are very selective, I really want to know. That doesn't make any sense. The math is not mathing up.
What's your opinion on Andrew Tate?
I think he's a very charismatic guy. I think he's really good at engaging with people. He's really good at marketing and selling himself. I will give him that all day long. He understands the Loverboy method. The Loverboy method will get people in, get them reeled in, but if you have bad intention, it's gonna bite you in the ass eventually. It's like pimping. Human trafficking is what we call it. My husband says it's not a good word because he's not, but we could argue about that all day long. My biggest problem with him is the lack of empathy he had for the men that he scammed. How are you doing a male empowerment movement if you're saying, you know, I think that men need to be stronger men and da-da-da-da. Hey, how do you feel about the years of you scamming all the men and all the webcam girls that you ran? They're stupid. I don't give a fuck. Like, have some compassion. Like, even if that was a phase in your life and you're different because we all change, you have to at least own up to your mistakes. Like, you know what? I said it at a time to get clicks, and I didn't realize that this is how it made me sound. I sound like an idiot. I regret that. If you just own your mistakes, take accountability, and stop blaming women.
I feel like he's changed the way he.
Oh yeah, he has. But for why? Sure. Because he's getting grilled. He's getting tackled. He has all this digital footprint of him saying how he started the cam girl business. So, and that's something that I never dived into much. Like, I don't really look into like drama. I hate.
I just you know, from this stuff, you know, they talked so much shit about him, and from a lot of the stuff he said, he said something. He mentioned something about depression. He said depression is just a state of mind, and if you can change that state of mind, I can't quote it exactly, but if you can figure out how to change that state of mind, or if you have power to change that state of mind, then, you know, then depression isn't real. And I took that with a grain of salt, but in the end, when I broke that down in my own head, me individually, it helped. It helped for sure.
Right.
I look at somebody like that, and I try to think about, like, what is the real, what's the end goal? Like, what are you really up to? You know what I'm saying? Because everything's business. Everything's money.
It is business, and
money.
I respect him for the business model he is. I used to agree with a lot of his talking points, but
same.
I lost my respect for him when I saw certain things that I wish I wouldn't have seen, because I have a lot of content friends that are like highly against him, and I like to see people's different perspective. And there's certain things that I saw, I was like, I didn't know that's what he said. I didn't know that's what he stood for. So unfortunately, there are clips of me saying that I think he's a good guy. I never met him. Objectively, I would say he's a good person. And then I saw that other stuff, and I was like, oh, dude, no, bad luck. I'm sorry, I can't. And being that everyone in the space is hypocrites, they preach one thing and they sell a different thing. You have a wife, you have kids.
So I guess from me asking you all of these questions is, how do you think now with Andrew Tate's and the Fresh and Fit podcast, and then you have all these other, independent women and OnlyFans women and social media women that, whatever. How does an average guy that's happy being an average guy or woman, how do you navigate through all of that? And do you see that getting better or worse?
Well, to navigate through that, you take the good and you leave the bad. I've always said I don't like anyone's opinion 100%. There's a lot of people that I agree with, maybe 50, 80, 90. There's always going to be something that I don't like about them. But if you're solely saying, I trust everything Andrew Tate says, you're fucked up. Like, that's stupid. So they acknowledge some good points. It's like a library. You take what you need from it and you graduate from it. Do not swear by these people or anyone, including me. I just think that what fits for me may not fit for you. But you should take some things that would maybe help or heal. And I think that people shouldn't depend solely their entire life and knowledge on these people, because they're always going to be around, because there's always going to be someone who's going to buy that sauce. But if you stuck in that, you're going to be the same way that you are for the next 20, 30, 40 years. And I don't think that's healthy. I'm getting called currently a grifter because I agreed with these views at one point, but that's where I was in life. The scarcity mindset. I'm scared someone might cheat on me. I'm scared someone might leave me. I have to control everything. But that I didn't progress in life when I was in that phase. The minute I tapped out of it and said that's not what I stand for anymore, my network grew, my family grew, everything.
Well, I generally believe that you're going to hit different phases in your life, and your opinion on things are going to change, and that's just a part of maturing.
Yes.
Period.
Right.
Yeah.
But people don't believe that though. They take it as like I don't know if people recognize it, but when you come from like the ghetto, they're really big on loyalty, ride or die, Bonnie Clyde, blood gang, all that crap. Because it's like, wait, we don't have nothing, so we have to have each other. So even if you're wrong, you're convicted as a wrong person, I'm still supporting you.
Yeah, no.
That's not logical.
No.
But that's how they operate. And that's how they're always going to be. And I don't stand by that because I see shady things. I see the operations behind, and I'm like, that's shady. Yeah. That's shady. I can't sleep like that. I'm out. So, that's the entire movement.
What's the short-term goal and long-term goal for you? Because looking at your content, I thought that you were a relationship coach or a dating coach of some sort, or a life coach. I don't know. I didn't know what to title you.
Yeah, there's no title.
But the fact of the matter is, a lot of the things that you say are very logical and they hold a lot of weight. And obviously, you have some wit to you, and you're smart and intelligent. So, with that being said, is there any particular goal that you might have with everything that you're doing right now?
The only goal I have right now is to find out what I'm truly destined to do. I don't know exactly what I'm destined to do. All I know is I've done nails my whole life, and that taught me a lot of people, service, psyche, all that stuff. I love what I do online right now. I don't get paid the way I should, but I'm not there for it, so I don't really care. I just see more of the impact that it's doing. If it opens up more doors for me to do things like, books and movies and stuff like that, I would love to. But I don't dream as far as what I don't know if I can get there. So I get scared to say that, I want to be this, because I don't know if I even have the capability to sit in these spaces. So I just kind of take it day by day. I've given myself somewhat of like a time frame, anywhere from like 2 years, 3 years, and see what type of doors I've knocked down. But within a year of doing this, I feel like I've knocked down a lot. So I really hope I have the same impact within the next year. It's helping me grow. I'm growing, and the people that trust and follow me, they're also growing, and I see it, and I'm super happy and super thankful. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. It's just grow, and as I'm growing, to impact as much as I can, and then just kind of feel it out from there.
Yeah. Kind of close out, I like to ask all of my guests the same question at the end of the podcast. If there was a piece of advice that you could give someone that wanted to start their own journey, chase particular goals, basically do their own thing, and I know there's several things that you could advise someone, but what's like one of the biggest things for you that you would advise someone?
My advice for them would to recognize that it's a very lonely road, because you're doing something that only you can see and then nobody can see. And you have to do it with your entire full effort, even if you fall flat on your face, learn from what you fell on and do again and again and again. And don't give up on it. And it's so cliche to say that, but when people do these things and they want people to support them, people will naturally support you if what you're doing is correct and it speaks to the audience you want to get. And you just have to do your homework on who you're talking to and why you're doing it. And don't forget why you're doing it so that you don't lose track. But it is very lonely, but it's very rewarding because it pays off in the end. And if you don't see that in the end, you're going to be very depressed. So.
Facts. I couldn't have said it any better myself. Well, thank you very much for coming all this way to be on my podcast, on my little podcast.
It's a big podcast.
You have so much knowledge, experience. You have so much, like I had several conversations with you before we even started the podcast.
Right.
And I personally feel like you have so much to offer to other people.
Thank you.
So I definitely feel like you should tap into that a lot more and see how you can, I'm always about marketing and making money. So I feel like you could definitely do some big things there. But yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Let people know where they can find you?
You can find me, I think, on most social media platforms, YouTube and Instagram and all that good stuff at Angela Knight 2.0.
Angela Knight, that's with a K, y'all.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to Angela for stopping by, and thank you to Bokao Sushi for hosting another podcast, and we will see you guys on the next one. Peace.